have come to pay homage to Mother, said a voice, a dry, rough version of Cam Solasar's. A figure stepped from the darkness on the far side of the chamber. Shaggy white hair, the color of Master Solasar's, hung loose, almost to the clone's waist. Most of his features, too, reminded Jaden of Cam. The high forehead, angled cheeks, but not his eyes. The clone's eyes were as dark and lifeless as pools of stagnant water. Cam Solasar, Jaden said. The words slipped free before he could stop them. The clone sneered, and in that expression lost any resemblance to Master Solasar, who so often smiled. I do not know that name, the clone said. I am Alpha. Alpha wore mismatched attire, clothing salvaged from the facility, bits of stormtrooper armor on both shoulders and forearms and hands, and a rough handmade cloak fashioned from the hide of a creature that must have lived under the ice in the Moon Sea. In the clone's movements, Jaden caught the suggestion of controlled savagery, or more than that, imposing physicality. Yes, he was much larger than Cam. Jaden cleared his throat and stepped forward. He lowered his lightsaber but did not deactivate it. I have come here to help you. The clone held his sneer. We require no help from you, only the ship that brought you. We? Are you Jedi or Sith? Jaden took half a step sideways, as if to avoid the ugly import of the question. He reached the edge of the cloning cylinder and winced when he saw within it. Bodies lay piled in a grotesque heap. A tangle of decayed limbs, torsos, heads, and tattered clothing. The compost of heap of butchery. Empty eye sockets stared up at Jaden. Age-ruined lips showed their teeth bared in snarls. Beautiful, is it not? Asked the clone. Mother is where life begins and ends. The stink caused Jaden's eyes to water. He guessed that almost every person in the facility had wound up inside of this cylinder, inside of Mother. Fighting down his disgust, he asked, How many are you? How many survived? How many of them? The clone said. A knowing malice slinked into his dead eyes. Or how many of us? The clone stepped to the edge of Mother and started walking the circumference of the cylinder towards Jaden. Instinctually, Jaden walked the circumference in the same direction, away from the clone, the two of them pacing the face of a chrono, keeping time under the shadow of the inevitable. The clone nodded at the cylinder, with an insane reverence smoothing his expression. We return here from time to time to thank Mother for our lives. She can create it from the root of a hair, Dr. Green once told me. You are right, Dr. Green, he said to one of the corpses. Jaden felt entirely exposed. More of them could appear at any moment, and he reached out with the Force to locate them. He perceived no one else, but it was possible that they were screening their presence. They continued to circle, the pace quickening. Jaden knew what must come, but he delayed it, discontented with the realization that he had endured all of this, that he had asked others to endure all of this, and found no answers. The clones had shown him nothing. This Cam clone was mad. Perhaps they all were. Perhaps he himself was too. Why do you walk away from me? The Cam clone said. Because it does not have to be this way. It does, the clone said, his right hand twitching. Mother is hungry. Jaden stopped pacing, and his abrupt stop seemed to take the clone by surprise. I cannot help you, he said. Yes, you can, the clone said. And you will. You will give us your ship. No. From under his cloak, the clone drew his lightsaber and activated it. A long, unstable red blade cut the shadows, spitting angry sparks. The clone's facade ran like candle wax, the heat of his rage melting the calm mask of expression to reveal the savagery lurking beneath. His eyes narrowed, his teeth bared, and he snarled. And in the sound, Jaden heard the violent nature that had slaughtered hundreds of people and thrown their corpses into a cloning pit turned mass grave. Mother, he's hungry! Jaden prepared himself, sank into the calm of the Force. The clone ran one way around the pit, and Jaden ran the opposite. They met after 15 strides, still on Mother's edge, both lightsabers humming. Jaden ducked low under the clone's decapitating cross-stroke and stabbed at his abdomen. The clone reverse backflipped, balancing on the pit's edge, then immediately charged Jaden again. He fainted low and unleashed a vicious overhand blow. Then another. Jaden parried each one, but the blows began to numb his arms. He let the Force soothe his muscles and augment his strength, and he answered with a flurry of blows of his own. The clone gave no ground, and Jaden could not penetrate his defenses. They crossed blades at the chest, weapons sizzling, the sparks from the clone's blade searing scorch marks into Jaden's suit. The clone grunted and shoved Jaden 2 meters backward and lunged after him. Jaden leapt over his head, flipping his blade and slashing down as he flew over him, but the clone parried. Jaden landed on his feet on the edge of the pit, and the clone was upon him, forcing his lightsaber high and landing a Force-augmented kick into his chest. Ribs snapped, and Jaden staggered backwards. Following up on the opening, the clone leapt forward and cross-cut Jaden at the knees. Jaden leapt over the slash, used an overcut to drive the clone's blade into the deck where it threw up a shower of sparks, and Jaden spun with a reverse cross-cut for the clone's head. The clone lurched backward, but the tip of Jaden's blade opened a gash in his throat. Staggering, gasping, the clone swung wildly with his lightsaber while unleashing a telekinetic blast against Jaden's chest. Jaden used the Force to deaden the blow, but his broken ribs ground against one another, and he hissed with pain. By now, the clone had recovered enough to charge. He attacked low, overhand, cross-cutting. Jaden parried them all while backing off. The clone did not relent, pressing Jaden further, faster. Jaden answered where he could, but the clone's blade seemed everywhere. Jaden parried left, right, again and again until he felt a sharp sting, and both his lightsaber and 3 fingers went flying off into the darkness.